All right, we're live. We had some technical difficulties before. Not really sure what happened. I don't think the sound was live or it wasn't sounding right. So trying this again. Happy Sunday morning here in Chicago. It is a little bit colder and rainy. And if I don't go live, then YouTube kills my views and essentially kills my income. So it is 9/8 Sunday morning. We're going live here again, and I think I just like doing the random Q&As. We've got a couple people joining here. If you have a question, I finally learned how to do this. What I need to do is repeat the question and then answer it. I've been busy over the last couple days. I haven't been working on the project with Brad because I have to let it dry. So it's been sitting and drying. And I've got 2 guitars. I just finished up. Got Jack Daniels #1. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you can see this. This is a sort of the standard, I guess you'd call it, white oak neck, Jack Daniels barrel top with my custom wound PAF and a custom wound Telly PAF vintage specs. And then a barnwood back with an Icon American flag neck plate. So that's Jack Daniels. And then we've got a Jim Beam. Look at that. Decided to put a Bigsby on this, even though probably should have went hardtail. Got the logo burned in nice. And at least you could see the beam. It didn't fit as well across like the Jack Daniels. Want to try something different. Again, these sound awesome. And this is going to be going to Justin here, I don't know, in the next 2 or 3 weeks. The big thing when you are setting up your guitar for the first time, and I've said this over, make sure you string it up and let it sit for a week and then finalize the nut. So what I do with these is I build them, I get them strung up, wired up. I don't slot the nut at all. I let the neck sort of come back and forth, and then I will do a final truss rod adjustment. Then I will final cut the nut. And then if I still have a little bit of fretboard issues, I'll go ahead and clean up the fretboard. This way I know I've got it all perfectly dead level and it's all set up. I really don't like doing frets before I know how the guitar is going to react. So that is Mr. Jim Beam, full barrel, smells awesome. I also am working on a video that I'll post tomorrow morning. I had a Woodford reserve barrel shipped to me, and I actually deconstructed that barrel, so I filmed that. And then this is all of the charrings that was sort of floating around the barrel, and it's soaked with whiskey. So Ken is going to get all of this in a package. We're doing a full barrel guitar. The back of the barrel, deconstructed, sort of a way one-off custom thing that we've been playing with. So that'll go on Friday. So we're about 4 minutes in. We got 10 folks joining us. What's up, Julian? I am not playing guitar. I'm not doing that in this. First question is from Gavin Pearcy. Hold on. Gavin asks, I was inspired by your paint dump. I'm letting my 3 kids paint a Telly body. Given that it'll be a bit textured, should I stick to spray on finish instead of a wipe on poly? So for the paint dump, I think I'm going to go with Deft lacquer. That is usually available at Home Depot. It's not a true nitro lacquer, and it's a little odd. It's a little soft, but I think I'm going to spray it with that. If I was really thinking about this project, I would have done a cloth top that I could have found at Home Depot, and then used that real thick tabletop material that they sell, like the 70 coats of varnish. That would have been probably better than the paint dump. So I've got to get some deft, going to put that on pretty thick, and then I'll let that dry. And then Home Depot has high grit sandpaper, so I'll do some wet sanding with that to get up to high grit. And then I'm going to use some elbow grease and polish that off. So I think I'm probably still about a month off in terms of finishing up the paint dump. I know Brad's a little bit faster than me, but I've got guitars to actually build and sell. I've got a whole bunch of guitars with Justin now. And so we're getting ready for those to sell. We want to do a push for the fall. So I wanted to get these suckers done. And this one looks awesome. The burned in on this is perfect. It's funny how this one just looks awesome, sounds awesome. These guitars, these custom pickups are outstanding. Captain Woo. Hey, with the help of your videos, I was able to build a Les Paul. Hey, man, that's awesome. I love building guitars. I love helping you guys out, which is why I'm doing these videos. I got a custom pick here, and I'll put this in the description once this video ends. This is a piece of Fordite. I saw a guy on Instagram, Custom Plectrums, I think his name was, and he makes these. This is from the assembly line at Ford, and as they're pushing the cars through, the paint hardens. And I've seen some of this as jewelry in Michigan, and I've always wanted to get a custom pick made out of this. And so we had that, bought that from him, and I told him I'd give him a plug. I thought that's pretty cool. Sounds cool. I did sell the walnut telly. I had a buddy of mine looking to get in the guitar, and I sold that, which is great. So that won't be the first guitar I grab anymore. That one's gone. What else do we want to talk about today? I don't know. I don't really have anything I want to show as of right now. So what questions you guys got? There's 16 of you. I probably can give you a half-hour day. Today is Sunday, soccer day for Nolan, so we got to go run into a soccer game here this afternoon. Okay, here we go. Corinne Hall. Woodford is a fantastic bourbon. Yeah, I actually bought a barrel, a bottle after I got the barrel, because the whole garage smells like a whiskey distillery now. I didn't think it would smell as much as it does. What I did is I took the barrel apart, and then I cut up the slats, the staves, and I'm trying to flatten them out just slightly, get them to dry out. So the whole garage just smells outstanding, and I get to keep the metal rings. So maybe we'll do something cool with that. So, all right, Michael Sean, where in the world can bone nut blanks be found that will fit my Guild acoustic? Bone nut blanks. The problem with bone nut blanks for an acoustic is usually that they're really long and thin and they crack. You can try Stu Mac. I don't know if they're selling plastic or if they have like a tusk, but you can usually find stuff at Stu Mac. If you can't go to find Stu Mac, I'd go to Philadelphia Luthier Supplies, or if you're overseas, go to Guitars and Woods. Those are some of the better folks to get stuff from. Hopefully you can find your bone nut for a acoustic there. Hey, we got Terry on. What's going on, Terry? I thought this is pretty early for you, isn't it? I think you're on the west coast of Canada. I'm trying to do these on Sunday to get early Sundays are for my European friends, and then when I do later on Sunday, it's for my sort of West Coast friends. It's 8 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, and I get a whole sort of group of guys out there that watch. So I try to go back and forth. I know there's a couple folks always jump on here. Chris, he says, I've been really enjoying the podcast series you started up. And I wanted to drop you guys a comment on that, and I needed some of your feedback. So I've got a lot of my luthier friends lined up to do it. The only problem is that not everyone is as computer savvy to do a podcast as possible. And obviously, I cannot have builders come to Naperville and do podcasts, and nor can I travel around and do full studio level podcasts. So what I've been experimenting with is recording the phone calls and getting some high-end microphones. I've tried the Skype calls. They sound about as good as a regular phone call. So there would be no video, obviously, but there will be interviews with a couple of the guys I build for. There'll be interviews with a couple other builders that you guys know and that I love. So will you guys be okay with getting sort of lower quality audio than sort of other professionally produced podcasts? Is that going to be an issue? Everything I read on doing podcasts is that you want the highest quality audio, and I'm just not going to be able to get it. I know two of my guys are just not computer savvy to sort of get in contact with, so I've got to do the phone call. It's easiest. And as long as they're holding the phone, I should get pretty decent audio. So let me know what you think. If just recording the phone call will be good, you'll get good audio from me. I've been experimenting with some different microphones, and I still want to stay on this Sunday schedule. I noticed my views completely fell off after summer. If I don't post every week, YouTube ignores me, which is so annoying. Terry, you're going to be the moderator here. All right. Terry is moderating for me, guys. And, oh, he is in the East Coast, so I just must have missed you. Well, Terry mod for a little bit here. Terry says phone calls will work. What else we got here? What's up, George? George joined. Michael Sean, I hope you find that not, you might want to just dig around, search on the internet a little bit. I know you probably already have, but you'll be able to find some of that stuff out there. So content over audio. Okay, audio quality is awesome if you can, but prefer content. So I know you guys will love my series that I'll do with my buddies. I'm not going to drop names because I don't want to put them on the hook if they have to back out last minute. But I have done some interviews in the past, and I always love doing sort of radio. I was in high school and I did the Maine South radio program when I was a freshman, and I loved that back in the day. So I love doing this stuff in addition to guitar building. So we'll get some good content out there, and we'll put some good stuff out for you guys. Can you fabric top a Les Paul or similar carved top like the green gold Tellys? So Corinne is asking a question on fabric topping a Les Paul, and I'm going to do it to that one that's on my site that is not selling. I think I'm going with pink because the pink looks awesome, and I've got to glue it down, and then most likely I'll spray it or I'll brush on the epoxy. I know my buddy Matt at Texas Toast does like a heavy poly sort of sealer, and I don't want to go that route. I want to sort of brush it on and sand it. I feel more comfortable doing that. As you guys know, my spraying is not up to speed, but I will be definitely doing that one coming up. I've got a couple projects I'm finishing up right now. What I've noticed with you guys is that the videos do better when I post the full build than the sort of piecemeal series. I reposted that PRS build, and that was 10,000 views in one day versus I think 5,000 views on one for, I don't know, I guess over a year and a half. So I know the full builds do much better, so we're going to be doing that. A couple more questions came on. Bo Drew Guitars has an awesome channel. Yes, he does. I frequent most of my guys' channels. What's up, DR? He's joined. How far behind am I in comments? You guys are quiet today. Sunday after football or what? not getting a lot of questions. I was thinking of doing this in the shop and then having you guys sort of fire away questions on different tools. The cool thing about my shop is that everything is with hands reach. So I've got all my clamps on this side. I've got all my templates on this side. Behind me, I've got my bins of stuff. And then I'm on two toolboxes. One toolbox has all of my fretting. And then the toolbox next to me has all the stuff I grab relatively quickly. So if you guys want me to do the podcast from inside the shop, I might be able to do that. The problem is that those toolboxes move just slightly and the camera will like shimmy, and I don't want to do that. Yeah, we are sleepy on a Sunday, and I did enjoy some Jack Daniels and Traverse City whiskey last night as I was finishing up these two guitars. Home podcast. What do you mean, Julian? So for those of you that are late, now we're at 20, we doubled up. I finished up a Jack guitar, and then I finished up a Jim Beam guitar. And this one is different just slightly. I have a thicker barrel top and a thicker barnwood back. I don't have the core. The top I decided to use here was thicker, the barrel top. So it's just slightly different. This one really smells like whiskey. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I did a little jam this morning. I was wearing my Jim Beam shirt and decided to play a little bit in the basement. So Justin will be getting those two guitars, hopefully, I don't know, within the next 2 or 3 weeks. That's G Guitar Kit. I posted a comment. Well, I guess I talked about that a little bit ago. I'm letting it dry. I've got to order some Deft lacquer, and then I'll spray that. That's definitely not the most ideal lacquer. There's some other sprays that they have. Surprisingly, as it's dried, it doesn't have a lot of bumps. I thought it would be a little bit more bumpy, but those bumps dried up pretty good. I am tempted to take a really high grit sandpaper and just roll it over and then apply the finish. I don't know if I need to do that. If Home Depot sold 2K, I would have just sprayed 2K on it and left it, and that would look awesome. But since we're both stupid and decided to limit this to Home Depot, we've got to use what they've got. Brad is sort of teasing me to do another build, and I don't know if I have time because I know this one's already going to be a month out, and I think people may lose interest, so I'm trying not to do that. All right, Rich P, and I was hoping to answer more questions like this. So Rich P, he loved the PRS build. Any thoughts were to get a reasonably priced replacement neck for those of us not having the skills yet? So that was one of the reasons I wanted to do that video. If you have a hand plane, you can do what I did and take down that fretboard that was crap and rescale the guitar and get it at the right scale length and then drill. That was one of those series that I did that I wanted to show that didn't have a whole lot of tools. And you can order a replacement neck, but honestly, I think you'd be better off just buying a fretboard from Stu Mac, planing it off with a hand plane. And then what I did, I don't know if you guys caught it, to flatten the neck is on my other bench behind me. I took a long piece of Stickum sandpaper and sanded it till it was flat and then just glued the fretboard on. So most of you guys can do that without having a whole bunch of tools. That neck and fretboard had a pin in it, 2 nailed pins, which is why I ended up just sort of planing it off on my joiner. And then I nicked my blade, but those blades needed to be replaced anyway. So I was fine with doing that. But those, you kind of want to stick with that neck if you've got it. Even you don't have to sand all of it down. As long as you sand it flat, you could always reglue another fretboard and you'll add some strength to that neck. But I tried to do that one with sort of least amount of tools. I know one of the big complaints that I get is that I have too many tools and not everyone has that. So I tried to stick away, sort of not do all the hand tool or do more hand work than sort of the tools I've got. All right. That was Rich's question. I like the barrel-esque look of the Jim Beam guitar. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. It actually, they all sound great, obviously. But this one, I don't know, there's something about this barrel that looks really cool. You've got the whiskey sort of drying out and it left some streaks. It's a little bit wetter than some of the other barrels. And the barnwood is thicker. I got the big knot back there. I'm curious to see how this one will play out over time and see how it adjusts. But I think I'm pretty good. There's an article out there talking about adding borax to sort of regular Titebond. You get harder glue. You lose a little bit of the stickiness property, just a tad. But if you add a little bit of borax, you get a little bit harder of a glue. I did that with this. I'm hoping the tone sounds slightly different. All right, so Rich, it's just actual fretwork that looked pretty scary. So fretting for that is you need a press to do the frets. You can buy the jaw attachment that StewMac has, but if you don't really have the fret press sort of patience or money, Harbor Freight sells a mini press, which is where I got mine, and then it had a drilled out hole in the middle, and I bought that attachment. You can always sort of tap them in with a hammer. That works out pretty well to get them down. And as long as your fret slot is clean, they should go in pretty easily. I would probably just do a ping hammer, and you can get the frets down and just tap lightly. The other thing you can do is StewMac sells a bronze tool that you can help tap the frets down. I use that from time to time. That's also like a fret press to some degree. Got to try it. You're going to make some mistakes. Go down that path if you don't want to buy the fret press. Buy like a ball ping hammer, and StewMac sells a fret tap down thing. That's pretty close. And if you go slow, do a couple here and there, you should get them pretty level. All right, so a couple more questions. Best way to do a satin finish over a Minwax Stain, wipe on poly or spray? I don't want to do toxic nitro. If you do a Minwax Stain, yeah, just do a wipe on poly. Those are pretty white, pretty clear finishes. I would just do a wipe on. James Brown, never apologize for having too many tools. That's true. I've worked hard. Those are my tools. It's funny when my wife comes down to the shop sometimes. She's like, when did you get this? Where did this come from? I'm like, don't worry about it. How heavy does the barrel wood make those guitars compared to the standard wood used? That's from Chris. I drill out the barrels slightly to lighten them up. This is oak. Oak is slightly heavier than some of the other woods. This is slightly heavier than a standard Les Paul. I think these come in at about 7-ish pounds. There is no finish on them. The guitars are very light and lively in terms of playability. The neck has a custom finish on here that I did one of my videos. I can't remember exactly what it's on, but I use a finish that seals the neck. And then what I do is I come back and use some wipe on poly and sand it down so it's smooth. So it's a very smooth, very light finish neck. And once you play it, it's unbelievable. It sounds like no guitar. Like acoustically, these sound amazing. Like, I don't know if you can hear it all that well. I got the good microphone going, but the guitars are very lively with the lack of finish. That's one thing that I really enjoy about putting these together is there's no heavy finish. The wood, it is already sort of aged and sealed. and I burn the sides to seal them. And the barnwood on this has been sitting outside. I get 2 sources of barnwood, one from Tennessee, one from Wisconsin. The Wisconsin one being my grandfather's farm from the 1875, I think it is, something like that. And the barnwood, he had 2 barns. One barn was put up in the 30s. One was put up, I think, in the 40s, and they're starting to collapse. So I grabbed this stuff, let it dry in the shop, and this has already been sort of lightened up. It's really unique. Same thing with this one. This is the Tennessee one. I know by where I purchased it, but as that oak dries out and sits outside in its age, it becomes a little bit different of a piece of wood. So it's slightly lighter. All right, a couple more questions. Do you notice end checking on end? All right, I'm having trouble speaking this morning. Do you notice end checking on the bodies as they dry out? No, I don't, because I force dry them before I do any of the final cutting. And I've got a little bit of a process in the basement. I have dried my own wood that I've resawn and sort of experimented. And since they've already been aged, I force dry them with a heater for a little bit. I've got a process where I dry them out, and then I do the final cutting and shaping. So if I do get some checking, I can then just cut it off. So it's a little bit of a process, a little bit of experimentation, and I don't see that much checking. Bandit Keith King, an arbor at Harbor Freight is pretty cheap for pressing frets. Yep, that's where I got mine. You just have to mod it, which is what I did. Anthony, should I use water-based or oil-based Minwax wipe on the Minwax Stain? I think it depends on what's the finish on there. I can't remember if you have a water-based, you can do an oil-based and it shouldn't pick it up. If you have an oil-based, you can do water-based. I think you can go back and forth. If you have an oil-based and an oil-based already, if you put that oil on, it should pick some of it up. I think you can't do a water-based, then put the oil over it. I think you can't do it that way, but I think you put water over the oil, it should pick it up. But if you let it dry long enough, you can put the oil over either and you should be okay. I hope that makes sense. Lots of barnwood here, East Texas. Yeah, there's barns coming down everywhere. People are not doing that. Mark Bundy is joined. What's up, dude? Getting it without getting shot is the trick. Yeah, I am lucky. My grandfather, my wife's grandfather, was a World War II veteran, and he lived here in Chicago till I think the late 60s, and then he moved up to Wisconsin, about an hour north of the Dells. He bought 290 acres or something crazy like that, and he built a barn and a farm, and he passed on a couple years ago. But he said to take whatever I wanted in terms of the wood. So I've been pulling some of that wood back. And then I have some Jack Daniels, some Tennessee wood that I use for that as well. All right, what else? Would you recommend building the neck for your first build or pre-made? Oh, hold on, I got a baby here. Wait, 1 minute, I'm almost done. Little ones are getting restless. I'm at a half hour here. All right, let's go back to this question. Would you recommend building the neck for your first build or pre-made? So this is something I was going to talk about in a podcast. Don't be intimidated about making your first neck. You're going to screw up and you're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but you need to make mistakes. You make mistakes and you learn. The first neck I made, and I don't know if I have that guitar up here. No, it's in the basement. I bought a body off of eBay, and then I glued on a tulip wood fretboard. I did not radius. I just cut the fret slots with one of those Kona saws, and I went with that. No radius. It actually turned out pretty well. I learned a lot in that process, and then from there, I think by the time I got to my 4th or 5th neck, or fourth or fifth guitar, I started making my own necks. The second guitar I made that I showed you guys earlier, I made that as well, but I bought some of the radius tools. I would say find some stuff on eBay. The Warmoth stuff on eBay is really good. You're going to sort of throw money into this anyway. So start off with some eBay stuff, find some used stuff, play with it, and then sort of make your neck. Or don't radius and just put the slots in like a cigar box. The cigar box is a great way to just sort of screw around, and they don't cost all that much. That's another process to go through. Let's see. Bandit Keith King asks, I imagine you can't use most finishes over a stain, but I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't even think about it doing twice. You can experiment, and the good thing about certain finishes is once they're dry, they're dry. You don't really have to worry about it picking up the material. I need to do a video on what I call a lock-in, when you spray a mist coat and lock in the stain so it doesn't pick it up. That's probably one of the most frequent questions I get as well. I have to do a video on that. I just haven't been staining guitars, which I know in the last one we wrote down some colors that I'm going to do for you guys. V joined. What's up, buddy? How are you? Max says, always listen to the baby. My baby's 7. She can give me a half hour. Building a neck is building a guitar. Building a body is just carpentry. I agree with you. It's a little intimidating at times. Just do it. Just go ahead and do it, and don't be scared. Keep your fingers on the top when you're routing, and if it shoots out of your hand, it's okay. You can try it. That's the fun thing. We all make mistakes. The one piece of commentary I have for you guys on mistakes is the 18-year-old kids that get on Instagram and say they built this perfect guitar by themselves. They are full of shit. I was on Project Guitar years ago when some kid came on and would claim how he built this awesome guitar all by himself. It's his second build. And lo and behold, his dad was like some Finnish custom shop Finnish cabinet builder or whatever, and they had help, and I don't know, the guy was just a liar. And don't worry about making mistakes. I still make mistakes, and that's just part of building. You know, Gibson makes mistakes. They cut up their guitars and throw them out, and we all cry because I'm still doing this. One more minute. I'm still filming. Yes, one more minute. I know. We'll get you dressed for soccer. Please. All right, we got to go here. Hold on. We'll answer the rest of the questions. Like I said, make mistakes. You will learn from mistakes. Avi, I should just send you an email when I'm going to go live. Sorry that I'm going to have to jump off here. More thumbs up for Derek. It's no problem. I just wanted to do this before YouTube kicks me off. All right, so soccer, family first. Yeah, guys, I got soccer. Nolan, you want to come online here for a second? A couple Father's Days ago, we had Nolan laughing on camera, and he's a little camera shy now. Come on. I'm going to turn the camera towards you. Show everybody. No, he doesn't want to. All right, so have a great Sunday, guys. We will be getting the podcast going a little bit more. I said I've got some stuff coming. We'll figure out how to do the good quality, not awesome, and you guys will love those interviews. I know it. So, all right, man. Terry, thanks for areas. Thanks for modding, and I think we've gotten rid of some of the jokers from the first 2 live sessions. So not a whole lot of Q&A today, more of a sort of random rambling session. So see you guys. Have a great Sunday and have a great week.
When are we gonna go?